Hi friends, and welcome back to Rugged Mountain Homestead. My name is Sarah, and today I am in the kitchen rendering beef fat into tallow. I've done a lot of reading and watching some videos on this and kind of just culminating it all together and figuring it out. Now you probably hear some background noise, and what I actually can't use to be rendered, I am slightly cooking it through for the dogs. And you'll see what I mean when you come closer. Okay, now normally I don't have a very weak stomach. There's really no place for it on the homestead, to be honest. But I am going to use gloves for this job, because a minute ago I was cutting into some fat before I put gloves on, and it must have been fat from around the heart, and it kind of turned my stomach a little bit. But anyway, the first thing with fat, from whether it's beef or pork, is you want to get as much of the meat off as possible. And as you can see here, at the butcher, they don't really worry about making it free from the meat, because they're just trying to get it off and do their job. I'll tell you why, what turned my stomach, and if you have a very weak stomach, just look away for a minute. I was cutting into it when I saw this. I don't know how well you can see that. Anyway, it's some sort of artery. It grossed me out. Kind of like the jugular, I would think. It's what it reminds me of. But anyway, I am working to get as much of the undesirable part off of the fat, or the fat off of it. And then those parts, I'm putting in this frying pan back here and warming it through for the dogs. Granted, I could probably give them raw beef, but I know they catch things in the wild and it's raw, but I'm just not quite there yet with the dogs. So, all right. It is best to do this when the fat is still partially frozen, just because it's easier to cut through. So the reason why you want to get the meat off of the fat is because you don't want your fat having a beefy, not just smell, but a slightly beefy taste. You want it to be fat. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. Again, if you got a weak stomach, look away. That is what made me run over and get a pair of gloves. You see I've cut into it a little bit by accident. Ugh, yuck. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. Just continue taking the undesirable parts off of this fat. And from all the articles that I've read and what I've watched, this really is the worst part of it, is the prep work to get it ready to be rendered. Now, some people say to ask your butcher to grind it up for you. Ugh. I'm not sure I want to incur that fee, and I don't think they would particularly want to do that. Seems like a tedious job, and I'm afraid that they would just keep all these undesirable pieces in there. So makes you appreciate it a little bit more. I have rendered pork fat into lard before, and I guess I don't know, got different parts. I didn't have as much as I have from this steer, but I don't remember getting any fat with any type of arteries or anything in it. Ugh. All right, so you just kind of want to do it in small chunks like that. You know, fatty, just the fat. And see, if it just looks like meat, I can handle that. It's when you start getting all the tubes and stuff. I can handle it, I find it gross. But they say with the hog, the best fat you're going to find is around the kidneys. Oh God. See? I don't know what that is, but so none of it is going to waste, and my dogs are going to love us for it. Now, not to worry that I won't have enough. This is not all the fat I have. I have an extraordinary big bag of fat to be rendered. I'm just not pulling it all out because I don't want it to start defrosting on the counter. Okay, so I don't have much just yet, and I have stuff going on the stove for the dogs, but I'm going to go ahead and chop up a bit more, and then I will come back when I have enough for a pot to start rendering. Okay, just because it's getting on in the day, I'm not going to deal with that whole bag. And the biggest reason is because I get a lot of scrap off of the fat, and I have a full skillet over there that I'm cooking up for the dogs now. So I have enough for a small pot. If you can see that really, kind of gives a glare. Anyway, so, and I also thought, you know, for my first time doing this, we know how the mayonnaise turned out, and I don't want to ruin a whole bunch of tallow because it is a very nutrient dense food, fat. You can use it in cooking most anything. It has a very high smoke point. And, you know, let's face it, the really good oil right now that you buy, the olive oil, avocado oil, it's really expensive. I recently got some avocado oil, and I was only like able to get 16 ounces. It was just expensive. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I'm going to pour it into a heavy bottom pot, as you can see here. There's that heavy bottom there. And then I'm going to put it on very low heat. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in here. And when I say I have a big bag full, I mean a big bag full. It's like half a trash bag. So there's just no way I'm going to be able to do it all at once. Plus I have bread going right now. I need to do some cookies, get those started, and cook dinner. So this probably was a morning project, but the kitchen was being used for something else. Anyway, all right, so we have a pretty good amount in this small pot. I have it filled to the halfway point. I'm gonna go put it over on the stove, cook it over, not cook it, let it melt over a very low heat. it will start to pop and crackle like you hear in the background. And then once it's done melting, I'll take you with me for the next step. Just gonna put it on this back burner here. And I'm going to just turn it on 1 right now till I see how it does. And I'll stir it every once in a while. As you can probably see, this stuff's browning up. Ugh. And I will mix this in with their other food because I just think it would be too much for them to just eat this by itself. So, a lot of people use tallow in their skincare, and you're probably thinking, what in the world? Because I've even used tallow for my hands, but it was mixed with some other things. But you can like do a whipped tallow, and you know, you whip it up and you use specific parts, and so it's white and you know, doesn't have any hint or residue of beef. But it's supposed to be really, really good moisturizer for your skin. It's, you know, packed full of nutrients, and I wanted to give it a go. Plus, if I can put up, you know, a few pints of cooking fat, I'm more than happy to do that. So we'll come back when this is melted down and do the next step together. It's going to be a little while, so I'll just meet up with you then. Okay friends, several hours have gone by. Dinner is in the oven, and I believe this fat has cooked down as much as it's going to. Okay, for some reason I was under the impression that it was going to cook down completely 100%. But I'm going to set this down here on the counter so you can see that we actually have in there what's similar to pork cracklings. It's just pieces that fried up. I cooked this on the lowest heat possible on the stove. So we're going to go ahead and drain this through some cheesecloth and a small sieve and see what we have. Now, fair warning, it may not bother you. I don't know. We'd never experienced this before, made this. I think it stinks when you're rendering it. It probably doesn't. It's probably just me, but I didn't care for it. And I have this really nice cheesecloth. I got this recently, and it's more like an actual cloth. And it's like the sides are sewn somehow, and you don't have to, the weave I think is a little tighter. You don't have to cut it or anything. It just comes in this really big piece. So I'm going to fold this over into fourths because I really wanted to get this as clean as possible. And we're going to go ahead and begin ladling it out and putting it in our jar. Now, so that it wouldn't break the jar, I did set it on top of the stove while the stove is hot so that it would warm up. You don't want to put anything hot or even really warm into a cold glass jar. Not unless you want to break it. All right. What am I doing? I'm so tired, y'all. It's been a busy day today. All right, so there's those crackling pieces. I ought to put those on a paper plate. Now, like pork cracklings, a lot of people like to eat those as a snack or crumble them up and put them in cornbread, which I think is really good because they're like just really crispy, extra crispy bacon in my opinion. I wouldn't eat this. I wouldn't eat these crackled pieces at all. I mean, it's not like a stench, but it kind of smells to me like oily fish when it's cooking. Okay, See if that's finished dripping for the most part. Now those are going to go in the trash, those crackled pieces there. We did, when we fed the dogs tonight, gave them a scoop of the undesirable pieces in with their other food. And they loved it. They devoured it. Annie, are you thirsty? My goodness. All right. The pot's still a little hot, but I'm going to pick it up and just pour the rest in. And the nice thing about this cheesecloth is that I can rinse it out real well, and I can wash it on delicates, or I can just wash it out by hand. I'll probably wash this out by hand since it has so much oil in there. And friends, there you have it. And that looks pretty good. It's not brown. It is a golden color. And it is clear of any debris. Really nice. Didn't get a full pint jar out of that, but pretty good. I guess a little more than 3/4 or right at 3/4 of the way filled. And now I'm going to let this cool to room temperature, completely at room temperature. And then I will seal it just with, a lid and band. My first time. Okay, to me that makes up for the mayonnaise debacle. So I'm really happy with this. It looks good. I'm going to use it for any type of sauteing, frying, cooking in my cast iron. I would not use this in baking ever. I don't know. I mean, I guess some people say you can. I don't know. It has a slightly, to me, a slight scent, like a beef scent to it. It could just be my brain. I am tired and my back hurts. So, and you hear that the timer is going in the back for dinner. Okay, so this is success. And I'll be anxious to show you what it looks like after it has cooled and been sitting in the refrigerator overnight. So I thank you for joining me up in the kitchen today on Rugged Mountain Homestead. We're always so glad when you do. I look forward to seeing you next time, and until then, take care.